Hello, Money Multipliers. Welcome back to another episode of the Money Multiplier podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Kessler, and we asked ourselves, do our dollars make sense? So y'all, I know our registration is out right now. Come and join us for the October Money Multiplier Live Mastermind 2-day event, kind of 3 days for my VIP folks. We're going to have a Friday night pre-party. And then on the next day, day 1, day 2, it's going to be classroom style. So I got a lot of cool speakers, a lot of content lined up. And actually, a big named people are going to come down. I'm not going to share the secret right now. That's going to come closer to the event. But go and purchase your tickets. Come and join us for those 2 days, maybe 3 days for my VIP people. I would love to see you in person. But on today's episode, I have a really fun and special guest. She's actually just been a girly pop that we've been seeing around within the home office space from time to time. And, she's really a colleague of mine. We are really sisters within this infinite banking space. Tarisa, who I'm going to bring on here in a second, she does exactly what I do, helping folks implement and use their infinite banking policies. And, I just wanted to bring another female on here because I know a lot of the times I'm interviewing the men out here in this world, but I just wanted to bring another female voice into this whole message. So Miss Tarisa, how are you doing?
I'm doing so great. Just happy to be here with you. My cup runneth over. So thank you for having me.
Yes. And she's a new mama, so baby on the way, and you're
Yep.
located in Arizona, right?
Yes. Yep. In Arizona. So baby on the way and just right in the time to be hot for summer.
Actually, because due date's going to be sometime in August, right?
In September.
September.
So yep.
All right, you got to holler at me because my birthday's in August. And I said, ooh, that's going to be a Leo baby. We're going to bond.
I think technically the due date he'll be a Virgo. We'll see if you're into that.
That's fun. Now, talk to me a little bit about this because you are actually, as of today, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
Let's see. I just turned 30 in December. So I've been licensed since 2018. So I've been on this path for a little while and it's been a fun one, as I'm sure you can attest to. Um, but yeah, I just turned 30. So I still like to think I'm a spring chicken. So
Yep, yep. And I just wanted you to share that with us because a lot of my audience, they know that I'm 24, I'll be 25 this year. So just hearing this concept from a younger perspective is just very, very powerful in my opinion. But talk to me a little bit about what got you into the infinite banking concept, being a consumer of it and then continuing on to teach it to other people.
yeah, absolutely. So I kind of have a fun story, but basically growing up, I was taught a lot of things about life that I think most kids are, which is like go to school, go to college, graduate, get a good job, get a 401k, and like everything's going to work out. And I just saw a firsthand experience of like my dad following those steps and it not working out for him in like such a real way that impacted our family and him too, obviously. So one of those things was that he was like the main breadwinner in our family. So my mom stayed home with us, but he ended up getting congestive heart failure. So he got really, really sick. And luckily he's still with us today. So no suspense there, but he got really sick. So it impacted his ability to earn an income. And I remember he tried to access his 401k at that time. And there just was like a lot of red tape and penalties. And I just remember thinking, even at that young age, I think it was like 10, was like, doesn't make sense to put your money in a place where you can't touch it, especially if you need it. I've always been kind of a go against the grain kind of gal. I just like to think for myself. And I was like, yeah, this doesn't really make sense to me. And then there was another thing that happened. Okay, so my grandpa had set up 529 plans for all the grandkids for college. Um, and my little sister and I were always like thinking about business ideas because we just like that realm. And so she got a full ride scholarship to a university. And so I was like, you know what, we should just like purchase a home, like an investment home, and then you rent it out to all your little buddies so that you don't have to pay for like living for 4 years.
Yeah.
Um, and we were under contract for a property, and they said, hey, you can't use 529 plan funds for the down payment. So the whole deal ended up falling through. And I just remember being so upset that like here again was this other example of us trying to like use money in a way that benefits like more than one person in a smart way and being told no. So all of this had me thinking like, how do we actually build wealth in a way that makes sense, that's sustainable, that's guaranteed, like there's no risk involved, you know? And I first heard about the infinite banking concept, I think in 2017 when I was teaching English in Korea. So I just did like a ton of research and I just was like, okay, I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so in 2018, I got licensed and started my first policy because I just loved it so much. I wanted to teach it to everybody I knew.
Yes. Yeah. And in your family, so you have your sister, is that your only sibling?
No, so I'm the oldest of three. So it's me and then I call him my little brother. He's technically my little brother, but everyone's taller than me. And then my little sister, so that we're like the little three amigos. So,
Yeah. And the whole family in Arizona too?
my sister's in Tennessee now, which I'm super sad about, but she loves it, which is great. And my brother's here, my mom's here, and then my dad's in Oklahoma. So everyone's kind of like sparse out a little bit. And
Yeah.
you're in Florida. Where is your family? Is everyone in Florida?
Yeah, now they are. So I'm in Daytona Beach. Mom and dad are just in the next town over, Port Orange. And then Zach, well, I have my older brother too. He's from another marriage from my dad, but he's my brother. Sean is down in Cape Coral along with my younger brother. He's in Cape Coral too.
Okay, well, that's nice. Everyone's in one spot. You should cherish that while you have it because it's hard to get everyone together when people are in different states.
Oh, I know, like herding cats.
Yeah, worse than herding cats. People are way more fickle.
So,
Uh,
so, so then talk to me about this. Okay, so then you started your first policy. What was the intention of starting the first policy? Like, did you have any immediate use that you were using it for?
so I actually rarely tell this story because it's not how I encourage my clients to start their policies. But I was super broke at the time. Like I didn't really have any money to my name. I just spent it all traveling, which I don't regret, but obviously not like the wisest financial decision. But I came back from Korea. I didn't have like a job lined up, I don't think. And I didn't have much money in my savings account, but I actually used like a 0% interest credit card. They send you those checks sometimes, like if you don't have a balance and they're like, hey. And so I
Yeah,
remember taking it to the bank and I was like, hey, can I just have like $5,000? They were like, no one has asked that before. And I was like, I know, but you guys gave me a blank check. So here I am to cash it. So I funded my policy with that. My first policy was $5,000 a year. And then I borrowed against it and paid off the majority of that credit card um, balance. And then it's since obviously then been paid off. But that's how I got started is I just was like thinking, this makes sense to me. I don't really have money to start it. And how can I figure out a creative way to to use this process? But I didn't have anything in mind other than I just was so inspired by the idea of generational wealth, making my money really efficient and earning on money that I'm going to have to spend or invest anyways throughout my lifetime. It's like doubling the efficiency of your dollars. So I just saw it as such a smart way to have all of my money in one place with no idea of like how I was going to use it. I knew I wanted to buy a house and do all these other things, but I just saw that as like home base,
yeah.
basically.
Well, and that's cool that you have that thought by yourself without having like basically a mentor there to say, hey, well, you could do this. And I agree with you. It's kind of like just any credit card world. Should everybody have a credit card? Hell no, because not everybody's disciplined with it. But
Right.
if you know how to use it properly, pay it off with the monthly statements or even the 0%, pay it off on time. It can be a great, great asset to you. So that's really cool that you just yourself figure that out.
Yeah, well, it just made so much sense to me because I just remember thinking like banks make so much money, and if we can just behave in the same way that they do and put our money in the same places that they do at our own scale, like we're just going to come out ahead comparatively to people. It's it's like Nelson says, everything else that we do in the financial world is compared to what everyone else is doing. And basically his argument is what everyone else is doing isn't really working for them. And we see that, right? We see that every day when we're talking to clients in terms of just what we've been taught doesn't work for families, and it's detrimental when they need it or when they have an opportunity come across their desk.
Yeah. Pops has always taught me that. I think I've said this maybe one time on the show. He always taught me to don't be a limerick. Limericks are those monkeys. So if all of the limericks are going this way, you run in the total opposite direction. And that's just, it's never failed me up to this point. And I just kind of agree with that philosophy.
That's so funny. That's so true, though. That reminds me of this video. Have you ever seen this? It's like a clip. It's filmed in a doctor's office, and they just have like random people standing up to see who else stands up, like for no particular reason other than the fact that someone else stood up. And it's just like we do these things without actually having intention or thought behind, why am I doing this? Does it serve my family? Does it like get me to my goals faster? It's like if you actually take the time out of your day to think about those things, I think you would have a lot more questions than answers, which is always good.
Yeah. That's actually like a psychology law. I don't know what it is because I'm not an expert in psychology, but I've heard a story similar to that where people will be standing like on a street corner. One person will look up and then everybody else around them will look up because they want to know what that other person is looking at.
Right. Yeah.
I get it. Well, and just with
Exactly.
what you said at your opening thing, hey, think for yourself and question. I mean, that's exactly what it is. Just because people are telling you, hey, you should go put your money into a 401k, go get a good 9 to 5 job, work here for the next 30 years, and let the government take care of you. Okay, how well is that going for y'all right now? X generation, you know?
Right. It's not going well. And actually, my husband and I were talking a lot about this. I'm just like, I don't understand this disposition of like, I just want to send my money over here and not think about it. Because it's like, who cares more about your own future than you do?
Mhm.
Right? It's like the people that are receiving that money in your qualified plan, they don't know who you are. They don't know what your goals are. Like, um, and he's like, well, so many people would rather just like not be stressed out about it. And that's their version of just like having the capacity or ability to blame someone in the event that it goes wrong. And I'm like, but wouldn't you rather be in front of that and say, I want my life to go this way, and therefore I'm going to do things differently? And he's like, that's not a common thought process to have.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Because Nelson Nash, even he has a saying about that. It's if you know what's going on, you'll know what to do. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people just maybe because of anxiety or stress, or they just want to totally avoid it altogether. And that's why they don't put that emphasis on looking actually at their bank statements, or where is my money going, or how much am I bringing in. I mean, that's one thing that I talk about all the time. And I'm going to say it one more time. Rocket Money, if you're listening to me, hello, my name's Hannah Kessler and you should sponsor me. But I talk about Rocket Money all the time just because it totally exclude the infinite banking concept out of it, or even the policies. You should understand where the money is going and budgeting within yourself and for your family. Like dad kind of makes the joke, hey, when people think that they still have checks left out on the counter, that there's still money in the bank. No, you may not have the money in the bank, even though you got those paper checks sitting there on the counter. So it's just, if you know what's going on, you'll know what to do. And that's one of the laws I've taken of Nelson too.
Yeah,
So
I love that one. It's so true. It's like you have to be in charge of telling your money where to go. Otherwise, it's going to dictate where you're going, and that's a much scarier place to be.
yeah. And you just got married as of recently, what, maybe 1 year, 2 years ago?
Yeah, it'll be a year in like 2 months. So we still really like and love each other. So congrats to us. No, but it's the best. I always joke around with people, but I'm like, yeah, I made sure that like he got a policy first before we got engaged.
Yes.
I needed to make sure he understood the importance of this concept before I committed my life to him.
That's important, being on the same page with money. And actually, I was going to ask you because Like, how does your family, like, I talk a lot about how my family, when we're talking to them about this, how they interpret it and their feedback that they give us. Is your family practicing this as well, or how has those conversations been going?
That's a great question. So my sister currently has a policy. My mom has a couple. I obviously have a few on myself and on my husband, and we're in the process of adopting our niece and nephew. So once that happens, we can get policies on them. Um, so my immediate family, yes, like everyone is on board. I haven't had much luck with like extended family, but I also, to be honest, haven't really gone out of my way to like be like, hey, what do you think about this? It's like when they stop hitting you back after a little while, you're like, oh, okay, they're not interested. And I always tell agents like that are just starting in the industry, like usually your family and friends are the hardest people to talk to about this because they just know you as like Hannah, when she was 7, or Tarisa when she was in 6th grade, not Tarisa, like the person that is an expert in this field of study and helps people every day with that sort of thing. So I think it's kind of hard to break that mold. But it is important. And I really commend the people that take the time and probably spend more time than I do, admittedly, with trying to make sure that everyone is on board. Is your family like the same way? Like all of your extended family have policies or?
No, you hit the nail right on the head. My
Okay.
family, yeah, no, they're locked in. Actually, we got now down to 3 generations doing this. My niece, so she has her policy. She's been using it. She's not old enough yet to own it, so she just turned 15. But my older brother Sean owns it for her, and he's teaching her about how to use it. Because she's a very big girly girl. She likes to go get her nails done and go
Cute.
shopping and different things like that. So she'll use her policy for some of those financing things. But like my aunt and my uncle, man, like I've just been at it with them, or even my grandparents. Like my grandpa's still calling us up. Hey, Hannah, I want to go put my money into this bond. Can you help me here? Right? And different things like that. It's just because their mindset's different and how they've grown up in those different generations. But just even my aunt and my uncle, they've been very hard to talk about this with because they're just very big spenders. They're the type of people that, he makes very good money. I was about to call him out. I'm going to save that. Sorry. But he makes very, very good money doing what he does. But they just spend all of the money that they get. My aunt has to have very nice designer bags, and they have the most up-to-date Mercedes that just came out, and it's like, why, y'all? You really aren't doing this for you. You're kind of doing it to keep up with the Joneses and show off what
Mhm.
you have, which is, I don't know, it's just not the life that I personally want to live, right?
Well, right. It's like you should do things that are like authentic to you and like what's important to you. And I have this conversation with my with my nephew all the time because he's always like, what can I do to make a fast buck, Um, and so he really wants to get into streaming and he's like talking about how much money they make. And I told him, I'm like, Kale, it doesn't matter how much money people make if you don't have the skills to keep it. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's 10 or a million, because the person that makes 10 and saves 2 is going to be so much better off than the person that makes a million and saves 0, because it's the habit that makes you successful. And he's like, that makes sense, But it's just like even little kids, it's like you have to go out of your way to be like, hey, you're your best income producing asset, which means like you need to invest in yourself. And how you do that is by saving money so that you can invest in opportunities, invest in learning, invest in whatever the case may be.
Yes. Yeah. And are you traveling around? Like, are you doing live speaking or webinars, or what are you up to?
Yeah, so I just actually co-hosted like a multifamily real estate and infinite banking webinar, which was super fun. I met this lady at a women's summit that I hosted with a few other girlfriends that are really successful in business. And she had already started her infinite banking policy, but it was fun because it was kind of like, I'm sure obviously you're so into this, so many years into this because your dad was into it, but it's like for people that are newer without much understanding, it's just kind of so counterintuitive to what we've been taught that
Mhm.
she's like, okay, well, she's like, I have the money sitting in my bank account. Like, should I just pay back my policy loan? I'm like, yeah, why not? Because you get to have ownership over that environment, Whereas the bank account is like you're just renting and you pay taxes on like your 0.1% interest, you know? And she's like, okay, like that makes sense. So we just hosted that. That was super fun. And then I actually am booking out for the summer for speaking events. I really enjoy like the real estate and infinite banking conversation because I just feel like it's the perfect marriage. And that's how, that's what I enjoy investing in. So that's what I like helping people with is like, hey, if you're going to invest in real estate anyways, here's how you can actually increase your rate of return and earn in both places.
Yep, yep. Now, are these summits, are they just specifically to women? And I guess the reason I'm asking is I've gotten a few women who've come to me and say, hey, do you know of any just women only investor groups or women only conferences that I can go to that are just talking about investing or banking or just anything money related? Do you have a few of those groups?
So, I typically like to host like those events, like put them on just because I like highlighting women in business, women in the area, and networking that way. But I'm not particularly a part of any of those specific like investment groups yet. That sounds like a good idea.
No, I know. There's one that I'm trying to get my foot in the door with right now. I'll keep everybody posted, but I'll let you know how that one goes.
Yeah, you'll have to let me know. That sounds like fun. Especially because I know part of our topic today was just like how do we share this in like our, you know, our communities with other women. Um, because it is I remember going to my first think tank and I was like so excited because the line to the bathroom for the girls' restroom is so short. And then I
Yeah,
got so sad because I was like, actually, that means that there's not a ton of like women here in the industry. And that's been changing over the years and it's been really fun and refreshing just because um you know, I just think everyone has like their own brilliance and it's so awesome. Like most of my mentors have been male and that they've been so great along my learning journey and it's so refreshing to have like someone like you to talk to or Mary Jo or just other women in the industry that can give their experience and their insights.
yeah, yeah. And there needs to be more women in this space too. Because let's be real, I mean, as history has it, it's the man who comes in and is the providers, the one who manages the finances for the family. And I think we're seeing ourselves stray away from that, especially me being Gen Z. I believe you're in that millennial generation. And I like to see that happen more and more. And so I like even I was just having a conversation. This was I think last week with someone on the phone. She was an older woman, you know, like in her 70s, I want to say.
Oh,
Um
wow.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't say the word older, but you get me all. So, you know, and she was calling me up and she was just kind of stressed out because, you know, her husband kind of has her on this budget, which is great. But Hannah, if something were to happen to him, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to
Mhm.
handle the money or pay the bills. And that's why I always talk about that. It's just very, very important, especially as a family unit, to be on the same page with our money and how we're financing things, where we're saving the money, why I'm doing XYZ and not this. And that just kind of goes back to like what Jason Lowe has even always taught me. Hey, it's important to have those annual family banking meetings so that everybody's just on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like traditionally women outlive men. And I've sat down with like a client where, you know, her husband was the main breadwinner. He earned like over six figures and she was like a receptionist at her kid's school. So it's like she just wants to be around her kids, but he passed away suddenly. So it's like you have this lifestyle that's built around six figures when like the other person's income doesn't make up for that. So it's like not only have you left them mourning, but also not able to have the household run because that income isn't there anymore. And my husband, we have like check-ins like once a month, you know, like, hey, here's how things are going out, coming in, any changes, any adjustments, just because it's so important to be on the same page about that. Like my parents were growing up and you know, it wasn't the best situation.
Yes. And that's all we're trying to do is we're just trying to make our family unit better and better as we progress through life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, and your husband, what's he up to day in and day out?
So he is currently doing operations for a brokerage, and he enjoys that. And we're always sending each other like different podcasts back and forth. So this week he told me he's gonna take this class for starting a Turo fleet. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
And if you want resources on that, actually, Sandra on my team, she does that. She does the Turo business. So I'll turn
Oh,
you
that would be
on.
great. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wow. All right, well, I guess talk to me a little bit about this. And also, Tarisa, we'll talk a little bit offline about this, but we should do something where we're bringing together like the women of IBC and have like a women's event sometime soon. I know I'm doing always my yearly mastermind for all of my members over here, man and female, but I think just having a women's only thing, I think that would be really fun and really interesting.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I think that sounds like so much fun. And maybe after September so I can enjoy a glass of wine. Well,
Baby's on the way, baby.
right. No, that sounds like so much fun. It's a great
So,
idea.
so with like the folks that you're talking to right now, um, actually, before I even ask you that, let me ask you this one. My least favorite question that I get asked within the space, and I'm very blunt with this. Hannah, when can I stop paying my premiums? So just real quick, if you ever get asked that question, how do you respond to that question?
Okay. I'll give you a few examples. One is like, what's so funny is like I did an annual review with my mom not that long ago, and she asked me that question,
Yep.
which just goes to show that like sometimes people need a reminder. But usually I come back with like, when do you ever want to stop like a cash flowing asset, especially if it's increasing every single year? Most smart people will be like, never. It's like, exactly. So if you have a toaster and you put a quarter in and it spits out two, why would you ever want to stop putting quarters into it? So it just kind of helps like reorient people as to like what they're doing. And part of that annual review with my mom in answering her question was like, we went down all the way to like the last year of the policy. And I was like, look, if you pay your full premium, here's how much it's growing by. It's like you get triple the amount that you put in, and all you changed was where you put it first. She was
Mhm.
like, oh, okay. So like I don't ever want to stop paying premium. I was like, exactly. We arrived. Yeah. So sometimes you have to just like politely walk people through it. And I think it's just more of an indication of someone viewing this as a payment instead of a cash flowing asset. It's like this adds to your balance sheet, this adds to your capital, this adds to your investment funds or emergency funds, whatever the case may be.
Because the premiums are the solution, not the problem.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But I think it does take a little while for people to get there. Um, I remember starting my first policy, I was like nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, can I commit to this? And since then I've added on multiple policies, but it's a process, like we all talk about.
Yes, and just take your time and don't compare yourself to others. I get some people will say, well, hey, I don't think I'm going fast enough. Brent's got 28 of these policies. I only got one. I think I need to start a second one. Well, are you ready to start a second one? Everybody's on their own same journey, doing different things. So you start that second one or third or fourth or whatever when the time is right. I think a lot of people like to put the cart in front of the horse, especially when they're even starting like their first policy. And I get it because it's a new concept, it's different to them. We got to rethink our thinking there. But you're never going to design the most perfect policy right out of the gate because we're going to go through life. We're going to keep increasing the wealth. Hopefully, income keeps rising, the assets keep rising, that we have a need to want to warehouse more and more of those monies inside the policy. So you'll know when you're ready to start expanding the banking system and adding more and more of them on. So with that, then, I mean, what I wanted to ask you is that when folks are coming to you, like a question I get a lot is, hey, where should I start with this? So like if somebody who is new within this whole world and they're doing their research and they're going out watching YouTube videos, reading Nelson Nash's book, how do you guide folks in the first policy of where's a good place to start?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always tell people like, hey, my job in your life is to make it less stressful. And so we need to design something that can fit your worst case scenario and your best case scenario as it stands right now. So I'm always very like I would say more conservative like when I approach where they should be getting started because the worst thing to do is like someone starts too big and then they have to cancel their policy or not fully fund it. It's like let's start with where you're at and then let's add on as you grow. So I typically approach policy design in that way. It's like, okay, how much do you know you can save without any problems? And then how much do you want the opportunity to put in knowing that this is growing for you as long as you live and transfers as a tax-free death benefit to people that you care about or charity if you don't care about people. Maybe it's animals. I don't know, you
Yeah, yeah.
know? So that's usually where I like to start people because it's like you said, it's a process of rethinking your thinking. And as you grow along this journey, you're going to want to be encouraged to just put more money inside of these policies.
Mhm. And be connected with like-minded people, have your community base there. I think that's what's so powerful about just the Nelson Nash Institute or folks within the IBC space is that we're here, we got people to bounce ideas off of. I'm always looking in that Facebook group that we have and just seeing people's comments and what they're going through. Hey, a prospect asked me this, I don't know too much about this. Can y'all help me? And so I think it's just very powerful to be around those like-minded people too.
Yes. And it's refreshing because as I'm sure you've experienced, like it's becoming more mainstream, infinite banking is for sure. But, it's kind of like we're still in the early adopters stage where it's just like there's two people at the dance party. So,
Yes,
so we want more people to join our dance party because it's really fun over here.
I like that analogy. I'm going to be using that.
Yeah, come join the dance party.
Well, good lady. Now, are there any takeaways or do you have like any events that people could come see you at coming up in the future? What do you have going on or what do you want to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, I'm trying to get booked for the summer. So I have one coming up, I think tentatively June 20th in Tucson. It's like a real estate investment event, which I'm still like in the works with. And at the moment, that's it so far. Just trying to get myself out there and talking to people. I love building my business kind of like the slow way. Like I like taking people to lunch and getting to know them better. So it's just like I love just connecting with people, honestly. Like if I could just have a cup of coffee with a stranger every single day, that would be ideal for me because it's fun just hearing people's stories and getting to know what makes them tick. So, and whatever we have planned coming up, apparently. So we'll have to get that on the books as well.
Yes. Yep. Yep. So we'll talk offline with that. You made me think of one saying, it's always the people business. If you take the people out of the business, you ain't got no business. So it's definitely the relationships that we build. Because I talk about that a lot too. Like a lot of my folks that who started off as my clients, or maybe I met them at a live event, and they did start policies with me. But as time progresses on, it's more so actually just yesterday my I'm not going to call him out, but I call him my crawfish man. He lives down in Louisiana and he runs a crawfish business and he has his truck. What do you call those things? He had food truck. So he's got his food truck that he runs all of his crawfish business out of. And he says, look at the line today. It's just those things that just warm my heart from the relationships that you built on the business side to even carrying into the personal relationship side too. That's just
Yeah.
everything.
It's fun. And it's like such a good excuse to have a touch point with that person, like at least once a year. It's just like time goes by so quickly. So it's so nice to just know that you helped someone with something that's going to impact their family generationally and you get to stay friends along the way. It's the best part.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and actually, last thing, and then I'll let you go, is for all of my current IBC implementers, what is one thing that you would tell them to keep doing with their policies or that they should be doing?
Oh, that's a great question. Um,
I know I'm putting you on the spot. My apologies.
no, it's okay. I love good questions that make me think. I would say keep doing what you're doing and know why you're doing it. If you've kind of like lost touch with that, like, oh, like, why am I doing this? Like, make sure you continuously like dip your toes in the water because I think sometimes like life is so busy for so many people. And sometimes you begin to wonder, like, oh, why am I doing this? And you just have to be reminded. And if you're not taking advantage of max funding your policy, that makes such a big difference over the years. So that's something I'm currently talking to all my clients about is like, hey, have you fully funded your policy, up to the limit that you possibly can? Because if you have a larger amount compounding for you from the beginning, it makes a big difference in the end.
Mhm.
So those two things, get reacquainted, get re-inspired, reignited, and also to max fund your policy. Because another thing that is like kind of nerdy to do, but I enjoy it doing it with all my policies is I track the growth monthly. And so I was having a conversation with a girlfriend of mine who she actually ironically hasn't started her policy yet, but will be soon after this conversation. I was like, yeah, my policies grow by like $1,000 a month collectively. And she was like, oh, wow. She's like, I need to like get on that. I'm like, yeah, let's have a conversation. So when you see that growth monthly, it also helps remind you of like, okay, here's why I'm doing this. Cause I encourage my little sister to do it as well. And she's like, oh my gosh, my policy grows by like a few $100 a month. I was like, I know, no savings account is going to do that for you. She's like, I know, I'm excited now. So that's another, I guess, third suggestion if you're nerdy about it.
Yes, track it and report it to others is what my dad always says too. So, and you're not doing anything. All you're doing is just putting money into the policy because you got to flow the money somewheres anyways. So,
Exactly. Like, what would you say? What would you say? So I can come away with a great Hannah nugget.
yeah, I would say. I would say, honestly, probably the same thing. Don't be afraid to capitalize and don't be afraid to pay back the policy loans is probably mine. Don't stop paying the premium. Keep maxing out the paid up edition riders. And hey, if you got money that's just stagnant, not doing anything, no other investments to go put it into or purchases or services that you're buying, go pay back the policy loans. Don't just have the money sit inside the bank account, not doing anything. So I would say that would be my top. And then if we want to add an extra layer to it, don't be afraid to go put the money to work. I know like investing in different things that makes people a little fearful. Especially when I tell people that I'm a lender, they're like, ooh, you lend your money, or do you even know those people? How do you know that they're really going to pay you back? Right. And everything is so what if, but as long as you have a good mentor, you have good collateral, and you build those good relationships between you and the borrower. I mean, it's just game changer understanding how money works. Because at the end of the day, it's not, hey, I want more money. I mean, yeah, I want more money, but it's really just, I like having the freedom to choose what I want to do or how I spend my time. Hey, if I walk into an aircraft, I can pick, do I want to fly first class or do I want to fly back in economy? Right? I just have that freedom of choice. And I think that's the most powerful thing. People just think, hey, I want more money. Well, no, you really don't want more money. You just want to have the freedom of choice and the freedom of time. I went off on a little tangent. I kind of forgot your question, but those are my
That's
nuggets.
okay. Great answer. I loved
So
it.
I appreciate you. And if I don't see you in the meantime, I'll definitely see you in September, maybe for symposium. We'll see. We'll see when baby comes due.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be on a plane at that point, but
Yeah. Okay.
but yeah, I'll see you soon. You said you're going to be here in August, so we'll go plan something fun.
Yeah. No, I love it. All right, and I appreciate y'all. Thanks for joining in on another episode here today. I will be back next week with another topic. So every week on Tuesdays, the Money Multiplier podcast. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, 5 stars. You can leave a comment down below and on all the podcast streaming platforms. So I appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
All right, I'll see y'all. Bye, everybody.